Hi there, it's January the 1st, and if you're watching this on January the 1st, Happy New Year. We're beginning our journey through the Bible, particularly through the Old Testament in this section, and we are starting with the beginning, with Genesis. We're looking today at Genesis 1 and 2. And the book Genesis comes in the first of the sections, the three sections of the Hebrew Scriptures. Hebrew Scriptures are divided into three sections. The Torah, this is the story of Israel, really, the story of God's encounter with Israel and the making them a nation, and the story of their first encounters with God through Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. And the second section of Scripture is called the Nevi'im, the prophets. Now, the prophets include some of those things we look at as historical books. So it includes Joshua, Judges, Samuel, Kings, and of course the prophets that we know as. Although interestingly, it doesn't include Daniel, that we would see as a prophet. He's moved to the third section of the Hebrew Scriptures that are called Ketuvim, or scriptures, or writings. And that includes wonderful books like the Psalms and the Proverbs, Daniel, as I've said, Ruth, Esther, and others. So the beginning of the scriptures in Hebrew, strangely enough, is called Bereshit, which means in the beginning. These first 5 books of the Bible, these 5 books of Torah, are called in Hebrew by the first word with which they begin. So, strangely enough, as I say, the book of Genesis, called in Hebrew Bereshit, begins with the word Bereshit. And the first verse of the scriptures says, Bereshit bara Elohim et haaretz ve'et hashamayim, va'aretz ha'eta tohu vavohu. And there's powerful amounts of revelation even in that. First of all, it says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the word created there, bara, is a word that means originated. It wasn't something that he took out of something else. It wasn't that he reorganized things. This is a complete origination of something that comes in God. And it's God who creates it. This God who is the maker of all, who stands apart from creation, who is not contained in creation. Creation is made by him, and so he is over and against creation. And he made the heavens, the shamayim, the waters which are above. Mayim means water in Hebrew, and shamayim means the waters that are there. So the waters above, and we'll see more about that. You see more about that as you go into the book of Genesis. But also he made the aretz, the earth, and also means land. But it says, haaretz ha'eta tohu vavohu, and this word tohu vavohu is a really powerful word. It means it was all topsy-turvy. It was upside down. There was no form to it. It sounds almost like it is. Tohu vavohu, it was all over the place. And yet, it says in verse 2, Ruach Elohim merachefet al panei hamayim. And this is a beautiful expression as well. The Spirit of God was brooding over the waters, brooding over the face of the waters. And the Ruach Elohim is a very interesting expression here, because in the Hebrew, Ruach is a feminine word. And so here, the first verse, you've got God, Elohim, who bara, he's the masculine creator. But here, immediately in the second verse, you've got the Ruach Elohim, the feminine, the feminine bird brooding on a nest. The word merahefet means a feminine brooding. And so already within God, we see these two aspects, the masculine and the feminine, even as we're not just two verses into the scriptures. And God speaks by his word. And so, Elohim Yehi Or, Yomer Elohim Yehi Or, let there be light. And there was light, Yehi Or, Vayar Elohim et Or, and God saw the light. There's 3 times light is said. God said, let there be light, and there was light, and God saw the light, and God saw that it was good. Ki tov, he saw that it was good. And God then separates light and darkness. And all through this first chapter, there's a theme here. This is like a poem. This is a beautiful poem. There's morning and there's evening. There's evening and morning. Get them the right way round. The evening and followed by morning is the first day. Evening followed by morning, the second day. And in that space, in those spaces God creates, he separates. So he separates light from darkness. He separates waters from waters. He separates sea from land. and so on. This is what God does. He's bringing order into this tohu vavohu, into this chaos. And then at the crown of his creation, he creates the one who is going to be in his image. He's going to create those who are his representatives in the earth. And what's interesting, in verse 26 of chapter 1, God says, let us make man. Let us make, in fact, not man, but humans. The word Adam is human, not man. That's the word ish in Hebrew. But he makes humans, and he says, let us make them in our image. Now, what's interesting is he's saying, let us. We've already been introduced to God as masculine and feminine, male and female within himself. So he's saying, let us make something that reflects the plurality of who we are. So he creates humanity, male and female. And there's something we carry as men, something we carry as women, which reflect different parts of God's image, different parts of God's personality and character. That's why we need each other fully to blend, to be full representatives of God's image. And the picture is of a temple, really, that the world is created as a temple. And just like in a temple, you would put the image of the God. So God puts his image into the earth. Now, this is why later on in God's story, it's so important that no one makes an image of God. No one makes an idol. No one makes a statue of God, because God already has made his image. He's already made the people who represent and reflect who God is in the earth. And that's humanity. And so humanity is given this tremendous responsibility to steward and look after this beautiful planet that God has created. And then God does something very significant. At the end of his creation, he rests, Shabbat. He rests from his work on the seventh day. So 7 becomes the number of completion. And it's interesting that it's evening and morning. So those who celebrate Shabbat, Jewish people who celebrate Shabbat, it always begins with the evening. It's not like our old harsh Protestant Sabbaths, that midnight to midnight. This is a Sabbath that begins with rest. It begins with a meal together. It begins with a family. It begins with rest, sleep, and it goes on until the following sunset. So it's a day that's very important in terms of the rhythm of human life. And whether we keep to a 7th day Shabbat or whether we have another day off, the principle of rest is built into God's creation, and God hallows it, God sanctifies it. God says it's matchless, it's unrivaled. This day is unrivaled. He makes it holy. He makes it unrivaled among the days. And this is the day when he calls the earth to rest. And then in chapter 2, we go on to talk about he goes on to talk about the creation of man, the placing him in the garden, the supply that God gives him. And then, of course, the creation of woman as well. And this is a really important story, because it's in the Hebrew, it says that God takes not a rib. The old word rib is not the word that's used in the Hebrew. The word that is used is a side. Imagine 2 leaves of a door that opens inwards and outwards. That's the image that is used here. It's the leaf of a door. So God takes from Adam the side and he creates the woman. So that Adam, the first man, because he then becomes Ish and she becomes Isha. They then become man and woman. And he recognizes in her something that is completely who of himself, who he is, his counterpart, because that's another beautiful thing to explore. He doesn't make a woman who is lower than him. He doesn't make a person who is less than the man. She is alongside him. She is she is his counterpart, is probably the word that I like to use most about this Hebrew expression. And so God puts into the earth his image, his expression. He turns this tohu vabohu, this chaos, this upheaval, he turns it into the beautiful planet that we know today, and he puts into it male and female, man and woman, to reflect fully who he is. If we're finding ourselves in a place that feels tohu vabohu, if we're finding ourselves in a place that feels upheaval, then we can invite God to come and bring that order into it. And just to mark this day, I just want to sing the words. The words of Genesis 1 are so poetic. And so I just want to sing the first few verses of it in the original Hebrew to just celebrate the beauty of the words that are there. Bereshit, Bereshit, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz ve'haaretz hayta tohu vavohu vatohu vavohu v'hoshech pnei tehom ve'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim vayomer Elohim yehi or vayehi or vayar Elohim et ha'or ki tov veyavdel Elohim ben ha'or uben ha'choshech vayikra Elohim la'or yom ve'la'choshech kara layla vayehi erev vayehi boker yom echad yom echad yom echad. Have a very good day.